thank you everyone for joining. My name is Bisola Halabi, and I'm the founder of Use and Tech, a platform dedicated to closing the gender gap between women and technology. And yeah, so we've been fortunate enough to have men join us, and it's not because we want to exclude the men, no, but there is something called technophobia. Women generally have this phobia for technology, and I understand that. We also missed out in industry 1.0. We missed out on industry 2.0 and industry 3.0, and digitization is here. The pandemic made everything rapid, and I was like, you know what, we can't afford to miss out on
Me too, I do that too.
Digital transformation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just go on. And so I set up Use and Tech. So what is Use and Tech? It's a platform where we have exceptional facilitators. If you're a student of Use and Tech, I'm sure you can testify to that. We have patient facilitators, excellent facilitators from far and wide, not just in Nigeria, but also in Canada, in the UK, from everywhere, from all over the world. We have courses like bioinformatics, that's the intersection between health and technology. We also have courses like business analysis, we have data analytics, we have data governance, we have bioinformatics, like I said. We have Salesforce CRM, we also have web design, product marketing, and a host of others. So on today's For today's meeting, I'll be introducing one of our exceptional facilitators, which is Petrina. Petrina has been with us for the past 3 years now. She's dedicated to encouraging our students to get into the corporate space, training them exceptionally well, and then of course we'll be having like an interview role play. So this is what is going to happen. I don't know if some of our students, if all attendees are students of Use and Tech, or this is your first time of meeting with us. These are things that we teach our students in class, and then after they graduate, and they come back to us to say, oh, there's an interview. Can you please help me? So we decided to, put this up out there for, outsiders, for people who are sitting, on the fence, thinking about taking our courses. So without much ado, I'll be introducing Petrina. I'll be introducing three of our students. We have Ibukun. Please give them a round of applause because they took out time from their busy schedule to be here. So thank you, Ibukun. Thank you, Ibukun, for joining us. We'll be having Bolanle also. We'll be having Bolanle. Bolanle will be joining us. And then we'll be having Ruth. Thank you, everyone. Please, in the comment section, please give them a round of applause. Give them a round of applause and encourage them as they come on stage. Thank you. Good. Thank you, everyone. So, Petrina, please come on board. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Hello, everybody. Are you able to hear me? Okay.
Yes.
If you don't mind, maybe you can make me co-host, and then we can set it so we can mute everyone else who's not speaking, and then I can unmute who would need to, if that's okay. So you just go on my name, and then you just allow me to be co-host.
All right, 1 minute, please. Please also state your location so that we can address our interviewers in regions like the United Kingdom, Canada, Nigeria. We've had instances where our students from Nigeria, have different interview experiences from those in Canada, those in United Kingdom, those in Australia. So please text your locations, text your location in the chat box so that we can categorize and know how to address you. Okay, someone is from London, United Kingdom, Canada, Houston, Texas, Nigeria, Turkey, Australia, US, Canada. Great, great. So Petrina, we have like an interesting demographics here. So I'm sure you have like a lot of work to do.
Oh, that's fantastic. So lovely to see everybody here. I hope you can hear me well. So, as Visla said, my name is Petrina. I'm excited to be here. One of the things that I find that a lot of people have a challenge with when it comes to interviewing is lack of preparation. That's number one. People don't prepare enough. It might be that they'll call you for an interview, and let's say they called you on Friday. Today is Friday for an interview on Monday. Because you might be looking for the job, you will be like, oh, I want to go ahead for that interview. If they suggest Monday, you'll pick Monday. But the challenge with that is you might not have enough time to prepare for the interview. So lack of preparation is one of the key challenges with people preparing for interviews. So this is across all countries, right? And lack of preparation also goes towards not being able to really understand what the employer is looking for in the job description that they put out, right? And then the second thing is not keeping track of your applications. When you're not keeping track of your applications, you don't even know who's calling you, when they're calling you, and you don't know what job they're calling you for because you might be applying to lots of roles. And then the third challenge that I find that a lot of people have when it comes to interviews is they don't practice. They don't practice. They haven't heard how their voice sounds. They haven't been able to identify if they use a lot of filler words like ums and ahs. They don't even have responses in terms of, okay, if someone is going to ask me a question when it comes to an interview, what are going to be some of the key things that they're looking for? What type of response would they be looking for? What type of response can I put together that shows that I have the expertise and that I'm also able to be the right candidate, right? An interview, let's take it back to what it is. It's an opportunity for you to be able to tell the employer, to show them that you're confident, to show them that you're the right person for the opportunity, and then to show them that you're not going to make their boss look bad, right? So lack of preparation, lack of being able to practice can make you look like not the right candidate. So some of the things that we need to consider before we actually go into the practical role play is, first, what type of role am I applying for? If you're applying for a business analyst role, what are the key competencies? What are the key things that the interviewer is going to look for? And then how can I showcase that I'm the right person? That if they get me today, I'm going to hit the ground running and they're not going to be afraid that I'm not going to fit into the culture of the organization, or I'm not going to be someone that's going to give them a lot of problems, right? So those are so critical, right? So you always have to understand what is the purpose of the interview, right? And the interview is also an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about the company and the type of role and who you're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. Is it a culture that I want to work with? And is this somewhere that I want to be for the short, medium, or long term, right? So you have to consider all of those key things, right? So the process should usually, oh, just a second. Where is, sorry, just 1 minute, please. It's recording, right? Okay. Okay, so I talked about the 3 things that kind of keep people from not being successful when it comes to the interviews, right? So now let's take, for example, in this scenario, we're going to do an interview session. You've been called for the first round of interviews. So when you're being called for the first round of interviews, usually it's about them trying to get an idea of your communication skills, your ability to interact with others, and then if you even know about the job. So usually interviews, there are multiple stages. First stage, are you even the right person that we should talk to? Yes, we saw your resume, but are you even the right person that we need to talk to? So first stage interviews is about you telling them about how you have the experience, the years of experience, the technical domain, or also that you've worked on projects that are similar and aligned with the type of projects that they're asking for. So first stage interview type questions responses should really about you pulling up and highlighting your key competencies, your top 3 things that are related to the job description. And then also talking about where you've worked, number of years, and then what are some of the key things that you've done in terms of documentation or deliverables, right? So first stage interview. Second stage interview, they have said, hey, we like this person. They can communicate well. They have good energy. They're confident. Okay, let's bring them on. Either you're going to do a virtual or an in-person. When it's a virtual interview for the second interview, that's where it's broken down into the behavioral and then the technical. So when we talk about behavioral interviews, it's really, really, really important that you identify the key competencies for that role, for that industry. You understand how things are done in terms of 1, 2, 3. What are the steps? If someone gives you a problem, what are the steps that you need to put into place to show that you can take the lead, you've taken the lead, and you're able to identify what you need to do first, second, third, right? So that's very important and critical. And when you're giving your responses, you don't want to just ramble on and on and on and on. You want to be clear and concise, and you want to make sure that you're listening for the question that they're asking, and you're making sure that the response you're giving is going to show that you've done this in the past and that you're able to solve problems by yourself, right? So second interview is behavioral based and technical based. So they want to find out how well do you solve problems? How well do you communicate with other people? How well do you take initiative and leadership? And then how do you resolve conflicts, right? Product owner type questions or stuff is about how do you understand the users, the customers, right? How do you understand what's happening on ground? And then how best have you provided solutions in terms of features or in terms of campaigns or initiatives, right? So it really depends. So what this means is whatever industry you're transitioning to, whatever role you're transitioning into, you need to know the process end to end, like the back of your head. And then you need to look at your past experience and see how you can translate that into the process of whichever industry or profession you're moving towards and put that all together, right? So what I'm going to do now that I've given an overview of the purpose of an interview and some key things we need to focus on, and then at least I've talked about the first two parts of the interviews. Let's now start the practical aspect. So just give me a second. I just want to confirm that our people are here. Okay, so, okay, Ruth is here. Roman is here. Okay, awesome. So right now, I have Ibuku, I have Bolani, and then I also have Ruth. So we'll be doing kind of roundtable. So I'll bring the question and then I'll call you out. And then if you can unmute and give your response, that would be great. So we'll just kind of like simulate a first stage interview first. Okay. Okay. So our scenario is that you've applied to a business analyst role, and it's for an e-commerce platform that's kind of similar to Amazon. And for that e-commerce platform, they're looking for a business analyst that can work on their team to help them with enhancements and then also with potential new features and functionalities that they need to put on their e-commerce website. So you've applied for this business analyst role and you're in the initial set. And so let's say the company is Frozen One, right? So we'll say the company's name is Frozen One. And their mission and vision is one where they're an e-commerce platform that provides athletic wear in terms of clothing and then shoes and then socks and all of that kind of stuff. And it's for a millennial target audience. And they sell that to maybe the British market as an example. So let's say that's a little bit of context. Okay. So I will start with the questions and we can kind of go through as we go through. Okay, so very first question will be to Bolanle. Bolanle, thank you for joining us for this interview session. We saw your resume and it stands out to us. And so we're excited to have you here. So now that you have joined, my name is Katrina and I'm the business analyst manager. And for that, one of the things that I want to start off with when it comes to the interview is, would you be able to tell me a little bit about yourself and why you would be a great fit for this business analyst role that we have at Frozen One? Oh, for some reason you're muted. Bolani, I think you're muted.
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I forgot. Okay. Hi, Petrina. Thanks a lot for this opportunity. I've got over 8 years of experience working as a business analyst in domains such as retail, hospitality, manufacturing, customer service, finance, and so on. I've had a critical look at the job description, and I'm confident that my skills and experience align well with the requirements of this position because I've worked on various projects across various industries. I started my career as a business analyst during my internship, and it was this position that really drew me into the field of business analysis. My background is in mathematics, and that's why my problem solving and critical thinking skills are top notch. I've worked on large scale projects that have delivered values, increased efficiencies, and made differences across different sectors. I've worked in an agile environment, hybrid environment, as well as a waterfall environment. I've worked in various software development lifecycle environments from initiation stage to post-implementation stage. And I have experience in making technical teams understand the vision of the project. My key deliverables are business cases, business requirements documents, user stories, acceptance criteria, process flow, test cases, and so on. In gathering requirements in my previous project, my supervisors nominated me consistently to represent the team as a facilitator during workshops and joint application development. And joint application development is a workshop for stakeholders, because my supervisors then actually identified with my confidence in communication. In Zen and Zurel Ventures, my team and I conducted system reengineering, and we were able to improve processes as a result. And this was able to increase efficiency by 78%. I've also used various tools and techniques to manage requirements. For example, I've used Microsoft DevOps, I've used Jira to manage tasks, I've used MS Suite, the Outlook, SharePoint, PowerPoint, Excel. I've used Microsoft Visio to model various diagrams. I also know how to use Lucidchat. I'm so passionate about growth and self-development. I'm a continuous learner who is extremely collaborative. I'm creative with my thinking, and I'm so proactive. So if given the opportunity, I'm optimistic that I would be an asset to the XYZ team. I've forgotten the name of the team, sorry. Even as I demonstrate my eagerness to learn. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Malanli. That sounds really great. Very, very, it shows that you have some great experience, and it shows that you've worked on several key projects. So now this question is going to go to Ibuku, and this question will be based on Frozen 1. And based on this business analyst role that's available, what would you say are, how would you say that you've been able to, let me give the question. Okay, let me start it again. So as a business analyst applying for this role at Frozen 1, what would you say you would do if you had your very first project that was provided to you when you first started this company? How would you go about eliciting your requirements or determining what you would need to do?
Thank you very much, Katrina. And thank you also for this opportunity to interview for this role. If I were to be given my first project with the company, the first thing I would go about doing is to understand who my stakeholders are, right? And that I will be able to do that by conducting what is known as stakeholders analysis, right? I would speak with the subject matter expert of different departments that I'll be working with. I would make sure I understand who handles what. I will conduct a RACI metrics to understand who is accountable for each of the processes that will be undertaken, basically. And after doing that, then I know who are my stakeholders, who would be my potential stakeholders, basically, right? Then I conduct what is called I understand who my stakeholders are, basically. Then I go about meeting them one-on-one. Then there are different types of ways where I can gather requirements. I can do that by having a physical meeting one-on-one through workshops. I can do that via virtual meetings online, and I can do that even via emails too. It depends on the situation of the stakeholders, and if they are available to meet one-on-one, or if they are not available to meet one-on-one, we can have a virtual meeting. And while doing my stakeholders analysis on each of these stakeholders, I'm able to understand each of these stakeholders, their point of interest, what interests them, what is our point of convergence, which will give me a heads-on when I meet each one of them, right? And this will also help with my conversation with them, and know what their point of interest is. Probably it's sports or politics or whatever you, right? So all these conversations would serve as a melting point before I start gathering my requirement, right? And so this is what I would do. And so, like I said earlier, based on the situation of the stakeholders, right, I would either use a workshop, or probably I'll organize a virtual meeting with each one of them. And after I'm done with this, I gather my requirements via any of these means, right? And I'm done, and I create what is known as a business requirement documentation, which I'm able to document all the requirements for the project, what the project stands for, and the whole processes that will be required for the project, basically. After I'm done with this, then I go back and I escalate these documents back to the stakeholders to make sure that we're on the same page, and to make sure that everything they said is captured as it is, making sure that I didn't miss anyone, and basically that we're on the same page. And after I'm done with this, then I'm able to escalate this document also to my project manager or my boss for approval, and that would kickstart the whole process of implementing the project, basically, right? And so that's how I would go about doing starting my project if I'm given the opportunity to do one. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Ibuka. You're able to walk me through the process of your requirement solicitation all the way through to making sure that you had elicited the requirements correctly, gained consensus, and then been able to have an idea of what you would do moving forward. That was really, really great. Okay, so I'm going to pose the next question to Ruth. So Ruth, this question would be in terms of, would you be able to tell me about a time where you had to deal with conflict at work? How did you handle it, and how did you resolve it? Ruth, are you there?
Hello, Petrina. Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to be here and have this interview. So I had this one time where we had a miscommunication with one of my colleagues. We worked in the marketing team, and so in order to make things clear without looking like I was reporting, I spoke with the person that was in the supervisor in the marketing department, and just for clarity, told her, oh, okay, this is, how do I phrase this? Okay. So I posed the question to the person in charge of marketing and told her about the scenario without looking like I was reporting my colleague. And then she addressed the issue without having to mention my colleague. So I think that's one of the few times I resolved conflict.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Ibuko, if you wouldn't mind to add to that, how have you resolved conflict on a project you've worked on in the past? Ibuko, are you here?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Oh, okay. So the question is, would you be able to tell me about a time where you had a conflict with a colleague on a project? How did you resolve the conflict?
Thank you for the question once again. During my time in Finland, where I worked with Delhi Finland News Network, I was a business analyst and I was brought on project to implement a CRM application for Delhi Finland News Network, basically. And the first thing that I discovered or that I noticed upon getting to start to work for the company basically was the communication barrier, because Finland wasn't an English speaking country. It's mainly they speak Finnish basically, and I was an immigrant, so that was the first barrier which I had, which I had to take extra caution in order to integrate myself well into the company and among my colleagues and all that. So that was the first thing that happened. And so the first thing I did, because I noticed that most of the time when I give suggestions or whenever I talk, I noticed there was this coldness in the room because because of the communication barrier. And in business analysis, communication is very key, basically, right? So the first thing I did was to try to understand the basics of the language as fast as possible, right? So that when they notice that at least you're trying to understand the language, you can speak the basics basically, then that will begin to break the ice, and everybody begins to open up to you. And so that was the first thing. And for this project, right, I was also basically, and I was to gather requirements, and from the stakeholders, most of them were also Finns, right? And so I needed an interpreter, sort of, because I was to speak with Finns, and that was a huge issue then. So while we were gathering the requirement, and one of the requirements, which was which was stated, the interpreter gave a wrong interpretation basically, and because I had started picking up my Finnish skills basically, and I was able to understand what the stakeholder was saying, right? And so that caused a rancor between me and my colleague, right? Basically we had to find a common ground basically of reaching an agreement on what that requirement should be, right? Because at the end of the day, we still have to send back the documented requirements back to the stakeholder for approval and all that. So so we had to take this matter to the boss, to the project manager, basically to present both sides of the case to make him understand what was going on. And so we had to then the project manager was able to find a common ground for the both of us, and we had to meet on the same point, and everything was settled for that project basically. So that was I was able to undo that issue, and thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll also just quickly have Bolani answer that. How would you handle conflict? And then we'll go to the next question, please. Bolani.
Okay, thanks a lot for that question, Christiana. There was a time I worked on a project where we had to develop a cloud-based digital solution for a client, and I was the one that oversaw that we delivered the solution in a timely manner as we're on a tight deadline. So we were at this design, we were on this design actually, and we were on the development stage. But the UI UX team unfortunately missed a deadline to provide their wireframe diagrams to the development team. So I approached the UX principal about this, and she advised me to speak with the designer that was assigned to this particular task. He was actually a very talented designer, and I wondered why he couldn't meet with the deadline. So I approached him and he blew up at me. I was surprised by his response actually, but I remained calm. I acknowledged the deadline was a tight one, and I explained the reason why we must deliver on time for this client. So he relaxed a little when he realized I wasn't attacking him. He then told me about the competing projects that he had at that time and how it was overwhelming. So I asked if there was any way I could help him come up with a solution. Eventually, we agreed we should talk to his manager, and she would help us kind of schedule his project at that time. So we decided that, and the manager ended up assigning some of his other projects to other designers, and that took off the pressure of the UI UX designer at that time. And as a result, the designer was able to focus on the tasks, and he was able to meet with the deadline. He was able to complete the project I was a part of at that time. So he apologized for his initial reaction, and he commended me for being calm, even while he blew up at me. He immensely appreciated the fact that I was able to contribute to the situation at hand then. So by that, we were able to successfully complete the project in time before the deadline, and we had the product demo with the client, and it was a success. The client was excited about the outcome. Thank you.
Awesome. That sounds really, really great. So just to pause a moment here. So one of the things I want you to think about is when you're hearing the responses, think about the question that was asked and then think about the responses. So far, our interviewees, the way that they're responding is leveraging their key competencies as business analysts. What you're noticing is there's a theme of communication. There's a theme of working with different stakeholders. There's a theme of making sure you understand what the problem is, and then finding ways to show initiative and be able to solve the problem, right? So those are some of the key things. So that means when you're applying for those different types of jobs, at the beginning I said, make sure you look at the GD, right? You look at what are the top things that they've listed, right? Some challenge that a lot of people have is they get stuck on the tools. They get stuck on, oh, they say I need to have this certification or that certification or this certification. I'm like, okay, certification is good. Yes, it's a nice to have, but you need to understand, how do people work in the company? How do they collaborate? How do they get things done? Companies are more focused on individuals that are able to show that they are self-aware, they're self-starters, and they have a systematic way of solving problems, right? So it's very critical. So it doesn't matter what industry you come from, it doesn't matter what your profession, you've all been doing all of these things, right? If you hear the responses, you can see, hey, oh, yes, if I'm a salesperson, I'm dealing with conflict. If I'm an individual, I still have to deal with different stakeholders, right? And you have a way that you do your work, right? So just wanted to bring that out there. Okay, so we're going to continue with some of the other questions. Okay, so the other question I want to ask is, this question is, I'm going to throw it out there, and then whoever would like to respond, you can either, this is from Bolanle, Ruth, and Ibuko. If you want to respond, you can. Okay, so one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, would you be able to tell me about a time where you had to manage multiple high-level competing priorities. How did you manage it and how did you resolve it? So this question is being opened. So who would like to answer it? Who's available?
Okay, thanks a lot for this question about how I was able to handle maybe tight project timelines or competing priorities as a business analyst. Okay, I would say in one of the projects that I worked on, we had to deliver a new product feature in a very short time frame to meet the needs of a new client. The project involved multiple teams and stakeholders, and it was challenging to balance the priorities of all parties involved. So to handle this situation, I first conducted a thorough analysis of the project requirements, and I created a detailed project plan with clear timelines and milestones. I also held regular meetings with all stakeholders so as to ensure that everyone was aligned on the project goals and timelines. So to manage competing priorities, I prioritized tasks based on their importance and impact on the project's overall success. I also worked closely with the project team to identify any potential roadblocks or delays, and I proactively addressed them. So to ensure that we met the tight deadlines, I encouraged open communication and collaboration among all the team members. I was able to foster an environment of mutual support, and we were able to share responsibilities. I also made sure to provide regular progress updates to the clients, which is very important, and other stakeholders. I kept them updated. I informed them of changes in the project. I informed them of the progress we made at that time, and that was how I was able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. So could I would also like to throw that out to Ebuku, if you would like to also give your response.
Yeah, thank you for the question once again. I'd still like to use the example I gave earlier about my time in Finland, and still continue on the same the same scenario. So after I had integrated with the whole team and the whole we succeeded on the previous project, I was saddled with the responsibility of being on another project, which was the implementation of an SAP system for one of the other clients, right? And it's kind of happened to be as it was having a similar timeline with this previous one that I talked about the CRM application basically. And I was a business analyst on both projects. And so the first thing I had to do was to prioritize, right? And I had to prioritize based on the timeline. What is the timeline for both projects? And I had to prioritize based on the resources available. Basically, what are the resources available for both projects, and in terms of the funding, in terms of human capital. And after doing this, I was able to understand which of the projects has more priority than the other, basically. And the other thing I did was communication, right? I spoke with my project manager. I made him understand what was going on, how I'm being drawn into two meetings most of the time, basically, and as the two projects were running concurrently. And other thing I did was to, communicate with the stakeholders for each of these projects to make them understand the issue at hand, that even though I am I'm committed to this project wholeheartedly, I might at some point miss some meetings, but there will be communication back and forth to make them understand where the project is, every point of the project that we are, the progress that has been made, and even the meetings that I probably missed, I would make up for them. I would work overtime to make sure that my presence is not felt, basically. So basically I was able to prioritize by doing all these things, and it wasn't easy, because I had to go back and forth between two projects, and to understand, I even had to delegate some of my tasks that I could, but some I couldn't. I had to do it by myself, but I had to spread myself thin basically, and at the end of the day, I was able to I and the team were able to achieve success basically, but I would say it was a nice experience for me to be on those two projects, and that was how I was able to do that for those multiple projects basically. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ruth, do you want to also do that? Actually, I'll give you a different question.
Hi, Petrina, I have a question, please.
Oh, just a sec. So Ruth, I have a question for you. Will you be able to tell us about a time where you had to manage multiple competing priorities, each of which would impact your stakeholders? How did you go about prioritizing your work? This is to Ruth, please.
Okay, Petrina, thank you for the question. So there was a time the company I work with, we launched a campaign, and it was time bound, but within that period trying to launch the campaign, my boss wanted me to design, to make some changes on the website. So, and then he also gave me 48 hours to finish everything, which was really little time because of the changes that needed to be made. So what I did was that I was able to give out or rather share the task and delegate some that could be managed by other people in the team, while I handled the design myself. And then for the campaign we're launching, I only came in to handle things that only me could handle. So that was how I was able to manage these two competing tasks.
Okay, awesome. That sounds good. Okay, so let me see, what other questions do we have? This one is a great one because this one is talking about your influencing and negotiation skills and ability to communicate complex ideas in a simple manner. Okay, so this question is, can you tell us about a time where you had to convince a group of people to change their point of view? How did it go? So this is being opened up. So maybe Ruth can do it first, then Ibuko, and then Bolan.
Okay, so I work as an email marketing specialist, and the person supervising me felt like I should type my newsletters week before in order to handle other tasks. And I told her it wasn't possible to do that. And she got angry. Okay, why can't you do that when we're managing other when we're managing other things, we plan ahead. And I made her understand that newsletters are called newsletters because you give your subscribers new information. I can't type newsletters to send out next week today, because what makes it valuable is how recent the information is. And when I explained it to her this way, she was able to understand, and she allowed me type the newsletters a day before or on the day I'm supposed to send out the newsletters.
Thank you so much, Ruth. I like that. It's in terms of trying to bring your points of view ahead forward, but also still thinking about the deliverables and the business goals and objectives as well. So right now, I would still offer that same question to Ibuko or Bolanle.
Yeah, thank you, Petrina, for the question. After my stint in Finland, I moved down to Canada, and I currently work at the EL Saskatchewan. So currently, EL Saskatchewan, they run a sprint of 4 weeks, basically. And upon getting there, that was new to me because my based on my experience and what I've learned over the years, right? A sprint in an agile process is meant to last for 2 weeks, except in some situations whereby the project is quite huge, and when you divide the project into chunks, then each of the chunks are quite huge, basically. So those are the exceptions, basically. And so upon getting there, and I started doing some fact findings, right? I started talking to people to understand why this was so, right? And I was at the end of my fact-finding mission, I was able to understand that why the sprint lasted for 4 weeks was because most of the employees, right, they didn't understand the task being assigned to them. So most of the time, they tend to assign a lot of story points for each of these tasks, right, which takes more time than necessary. And when I discovered this, after doing all my due diligence, I walked up to my boss to make him understand, okay, boss, why can't we, make a sprint instead of 4 weeks to be 2 weeks, and we'll still achieve the same result at the end of the day, and even do more, basically, while doing that. And at first it was reluctant, but I told him that we could do a pilot at first to make sure that to see the results. Then if it ends up being a good one, then we can implement it, and it can be part of the company, right? And that was what we did. At first, I and the manager, we had to find a way to talk to all of the employees, right, to make them understand what was going on, because we had to carry them along. We needed their buy-in before we could do anything, right? And that was the first thing we did. And after we were able to get that, even though some still were a bit reluctant, and basically we still had to try to make them understand why we are doing that and make them see the end goal where we are driving at, right? And then we commenced with the pilot program to make to streamlining the sprint from 4 weeks to 2 weeks, right? And at the end of the month, when we were doing our analysis and gathering all the retrospective, basically to see what went wrong, what we should stick with, and probably what we should improve on, basically, we discovered that we were able to meet all our targets. We even had enough time to do other things, right? And even though people are at first reluctant to change, everybody liked it, but even though they had to adjust their timelines and work as fast as because it's an agile process, basically. So but at the end of the day, we were able to achieve success, and that was the main goal, and we were able to even do more, take on other projects, and that was how the whole sprint was streamlined from 4 weeks to 2 weeks, and now that's what we do at my place of work. And thank you for the question once again.
I like that. So that means that in terms of shortly, maybe after starting your role, you were able to help implement a new way of working, right? That's awesome.
Thank you.
And it's good that they're able to get buy-in. So at least moving forward, you'll be able to implement this. Okay, so thank you so much. So Bolanle, we'll ask you if you can give your response, and then we'll open the floor we'll give opportunities for, I'll ask questions to the audience, and then we'll hear your responses as well. So Bolanle, if you can go ahead, please.
Okay, thanks a lot for this opportunity. I've been able to convince lots of clients, because I've been able to work with various clients in different industries. I've been able to convince them of appropriate solutions. But the one I can remember now was a particular project I did in a healthcare industry. I actually proposed a new approach so as to streamline their patient intake process. And I was able to introduce a digital platform, but the client was hesitant to accept the idea, as they had they've been using the manual process for a very long time, and they were not convinced about the benefits of the digital transformation. So to actually persuade this particular clients in the healthcare industry, I conducted a research on similar successful implementations of that particular platform that we are proposing in other healthcare facilities. So I was able to present a detailed analysis as regards the cost benefits ratio of the proposed solution. I also organized a demo of the platform so as to showcase its capabilities and potential impacts on their operations. And through this effort, I was able to convince the clients of the benefits of the proposed solution, because they were able to view the cost benefit ratio and they saw how it was going to be beneficial to their operations in their healthcare industry. And we were able to successfully implement the new digital platform, and it's helped in increasing efficiency by over 70%. And the client was really excited, and they kind of retained their project with the company I worked for at that time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'd like to take a moment to say thank you so much for our interviewees for taking the opportunity to be flexible and answer some of the questions that we had. So these are some of the types of questions that companies will ask, and they are tied into the competencies. They want to see how you're able to demonstrate the key competencies for the role, and then how you've been able to help them solve problems. Okay, so right now what we're going to do is we're going to open up the floor for some questions. So if anyone has any questions, the protocol will be if you can raise your hand or you type it in the chat. And then if you raise your hand, we'll ask you to unmute, say your name, and then you can ask your question. So there's two approaches. Okay, so I see that Evie has their hand up. Evie, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, Katrina. My question is,
Oh, sorry, your volume is very low. Hello, are you there?
yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, when you asked about how the person handled two competing dead timelines, could you say that you divide the different tasks into important and urgent, and tackle it based on level of urgency?
That's definitely a good technique to use as well. But you also have to talk about, apart from the technique, what were the steps, and then what was the results that you got from it. So if you divide the tasks into important and urgent, what happens to the important ones? What did you do with the urgent ones, right?
Okay.
Who has his hand up? Go ahead.
Sorry, just to add to what Katrina said, is as much as that would work also, it's not it's not only about important and urgency. It might be important, but what if the company doesn't have the resources to manage the project and at that time? So there are other factors that we must put into consideration while dividing the task, basically, right? That's what I thought, just to add that. Resources in terms of funds, in terms of human capital, the staff that will work on the employee now, do they have the capacity, right? Just to put that in. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I also see that we have a question in the chat before we'll go to Joanne and then Millicent. So okay. So we'll go to Joanne's question. So how do you tie our experience where we have none from IT? So how do we explain our experience, none from IT? Why work experience flows from law? How do I keep the interviewer interested in me? So if you remember at the beginning what I said, it's around making sure that you've identified the job description, you've looked at what are the key competencies, what are they asking for the job, and then looking at your experience and pulling up and looking at how you've done the similar thing in the past, right? So you have to do some analysis. Your analysis is, oh, okay, so they asking about, okay, I'm applying for a BA role. What does a business analyst do first? You need to identify what does a business analyst do? Oh, is there like a system or are there some steps of what they do, right? So if you think back to Ibuko's answer initially about, oh, as a business analyst, when you come onto a project, what are some of the things you do? He used the key process of what a business analyst does, which is to identify stakeholders, identify what are the priorities, and then be able to talk to those stakeholders. So in that example, as a law person, you have to say, oh, me, I've worked as a lawyer. Okay, what types of stakeholders have I worked with, right? So it's not the literal of your day-to-day as a lawyer, but it's in terms of what are the key things that is needed, right? So as a law person, you deal with different people on a day-to-day basis. You have problems that you need to solve. Each of those stakeholders will have different views, right? So based on what type of law you do, you need to now say, okay, based on my law experience, what are some of the key things that I can use to talk about when I work with stakeholders, right? So you probably have clients that come to you. You need to help them. You need to do research. You need to do a whole bunch of other things, right? So it's really about tying it into what is the competencies. Based on the competencies and based on my experience, what are the things that I've done that align with it? And then how can I talk about how I go about doing my day-to-day work? Okay, does that help? Okay, yeah. So I hope that that helps. So when I talked about preparation, those are part of some of the key things, right? You can't just apply willy-nilly. You need to sit down, you need to prepare. Then think about some of the types of ways that the responses came about, right? The key is communicate what you did in the past and the value that you provided, and then how you solve the problem, right? Okay, so I'll ask Millicent, then I'll look at pause a comment. So Millicent, if you can go ahead, please.
Good evening, Petrina. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I do have a question, an interview like kind of question. So how do you answer a scenario where they ask you about escalation, right? Like, have you ever had a situation whereby you had to like escalate this particular problem? Like, how do you handle it? Because I'm sure they want to know if you would maybe make your manager or your, look bad or something. So how do you get to handle questions like that?
Okay, so the first step is you want to show that you are able to resolve things on your own, but you also understand when you would need to escalate. So an example of a scenario of when you would need to escalate is you've given a 2-week timeline for a deadline. You are in the first week of the work. You're speaking to your colleague. The colleague has a deliverable that they need to take an action on before you can do your step. You sent an email to them. You sent a meeting with them, sent a chat to them, right? You've done all the actions you can, right? They still haven't responded. It's 3 days. You're in the first week. You still have 2 weeks, right? Are you going to wait until next week? Or do you need to see if you can find them face-to-face, have a face-to-face conversation to understand what on earth is going on? What are the issues that they're having? What is the challenge that they're having? Why are they not doing their part? Do they need help? Right? First, you need to investigate that. Then the instance where you'll have to escalate is you've reached out to them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing. Now today is Friday. We're on Friday, right? Then, hey, no, if I'm not going to be able to meet my timeline, I need to notify people so they know. So I'm going to CC. You're going to use the message that you used to reach out to them. You're going to now CC their supervisor or whoever else they're afraid of in that instance. But you need to do your part first. So you'll talk about scenarios of you trying to resolve it, understand what's going on. If they're non-responsive or they're not getting back to you and the timeline is going, because you are a responsible adult and you don't want to be thrown under the bus, right? Then that's maybe a scenario of when you'll escalate. But you need to look at, so that's just an example. So then you have to think about, okay, when did I have a time where I had to escalate? You have to ask yourself, did I try to resolve this amicably? Did I try to understand their problem? Did I reach out, right? Is it a scenario where I can go to their desk? And then they'll say, oh, sorry, I just missed it, as an example, right? So in that example, always cover your butt. Your butt is, I've done my part. I reached out 2, 3, 4, 5 times, but timeline and my responsibility is upmost. So you escalate, or when you're escalating, then you're working on your part as well. So it might be a
Okay,
matter
thank
of
you.
they need to get another person to do it or reassign it, or yeah. I hope that helps. Okay, so 1 second, pause question. Okay, I think that's resolved. What are some tools and softwares used by a business analyst and for what? So Hills and Tech, some of the tools are Miro, Jira, Lucidchart, Microsoft Office 365. Definitely, those are tools that we use when we're teaching the BA class, for sure. But one thing I want to highlight to you is if you listen to some of the responses that have been given, one of the things you're going to notice is it's really about the communication skills, the collaboration skills of the individual, and then the ability of the individual to take initiative. Taking initiative is something that is really not a lot of people will do. Sometimes people will just wait, right? Or if people don't understand what's going on, rather than try to clarify, they'll just take no action. So it's very important, to think about how you work as an individual. Are you someone that's collaborative? Are you someone that communicates? Do you over communicate? Do you let people know what's happening, when, why, and how? And then are you someone that's accountable? In terms of you take accountability for your own self and your career, and you don't make excuses. Those are some very critical things, right? Because sometimes it will be like, oh, I'm on this job search, I'm job searching, nobody's getting back to me, or I'm not having interviews, or I'm doing this. You always have to go back to, what am I doing? What can I do? What's in my control? What can I do, right? And teamwork, collaboration, those things are very, 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 very important. Okay, sorry, other question. I have 2-year gap in my resume, relocation and childbirth. How to explain the gap? Do I lie or create personal projects? So definitely, no, lying is not going to help you, right? There are different ways you can format your resume. You can format your resume in terms of making it about competencies. You can format your resume rather than just having it chronological with all of the experience. You can highlight the key skills of what you've done. But even if you have a gap, it's very important. The question is, what did you do in that time frame? So yes, you can relocate and have children, but what are you doing in the meantime to build up your skills? Is there maybe a project that you can take on? Like you can learn a new skill and then create a new project to showcase that you're someone that no matter what situation you're in, you're able to come through. So it's not don't lie. Lying will not help you. You just look at how can you package your skills and package your resume in a way that highlights the value, right? And then,
Yeah, I also like to add
yeah,
to
go
that.
ahead.
So for Joanne, we have lots of students in that case, and it's not bad that you have like lots of gaps on your CV. A lot of we women, have experienced that. So what I always advise is have a side also. No matter how small, it could be you selling, it could be snacks, it could be anything. So what happens is when you upskill, when you take maybe a BA class, for instance, and you have that side also. So whatever experience you gain from the BA skills, you transfer it to your past side hustle. So that way, when you're talking about your industry, you have like a more robust story to give. So for example, you have like a side hustle of let's say food, for instance. Maybe you love to make snacks, women are like that, you bake a lot. So you could just talk about how you're a business analyst in the food industry. You understand? Nobody knows that your factory is in the kitchen. Of course, you are not going to tell your interviewer that your factory was in the kitchen. You're just going to talk about being a business analyst, from the food industry. So what I will do is that I'll go and look at job descriptions, from business analysts in the food industry on Indeed or something. Look at those organizations, look at how well it's packaged, and then talk about your side also from that angle. You understand? So don't look at it that, oh, it's small, maybe your revenue was little, or the experience was not that huge. Experience is experience. Nobody can take away your experience. So when you're coming into, when you're upskilling with Use and Tech, for instance, I believe you would enroll in a course. What you do is you transfer it. So when you listen to Bolanle said she has worked in various industries across finance, across whatever, you understand. She mentioned like 5 industries. So let me share an example. There's a fintech project we are working on, and a student is working as a business analyst. I'm not sure she's here. That's a fintech project. If she wants to talk about a project, for instance, she'll talk about all the fact that she has had experience on that project, fintech. You understand? So she's not going to throw it away. So volunteer as much as possible. Talk to your friends at work, at school, your place of worship, wherever. You understand? There's always a way you can, brand yourself and garner as much experience as possible. I hope you were able to gain something from what I just shared. All right. Thank you. So
Okay.
Petrina, please, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, how many more minutes do we have?
We have like less than, let's say, 10 minutes. Yeah, we are welcome. Yeah, because it's 9:19 p.m. already.
Oh, I'm so sorry. And our BA students will meet you tomorrow.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
So we are sitting on the fence. Yeah, we are sitting on the fence. We can't wait to have you in our class tomorrow.
Yeah, so
it's going to be intense. You are going to put in the work.
yes,
Be
so
ready.
no excuses. That's my motto. No excuses. No. Our students know themselves. So in terms of where people are at, so Ruth is working currently, Iboko is working currently, and Bolane is in the process of getting and securing her BA role. So yeah, I just want to take another moment to thank all of them for taking the opportunity to join us today. So okay, we have a few more minutes. Let's continue with the questions. So the protocol for the questions is put your hand up or put your question in the chat, and then we'll pull it up. So I see that So's hand is up. So if you want to go ahead with your question.
Hello, Petrina, thank you. So I understand what Bisola explained about having like when you have like a gap, whether if you're doing a side hustle and everything, but that's like, I feel like that addressed just people who are going to experience that. But what about people who have already experienced it? Like they've already experienced it. So now it's like the way forward, like what Joanne did. She's not planning to give birth or relocate. She has already given birth. This is an experience that has passed for her. So I'm thinking that in that case, because even what Bisola explained about maybe getting a side hustle or baking things and everything, at the end of the day, it's still like a personal thing, just like this childbirth. I think she can convert this childbirth to a stakeholder thing, like care work, because she was introduced to and worked with new stakeholders in an environment that she's not familiar with, on that tight schedule, unpredictable hours. There's a way she can jig that into like a BA thing.
Thank you so
And then
much
that
for
goes,
that.
it can even be like put under like voluntary care work or something. I don't know. I just feel like
Okay. Thank you very
Okay.
much. I used to
Are
be
you
a
saying that? Oh, sorry.
I used to sell clothing from Turkey, from Istanbul, under the name of Sugar Rush. So I'm thinking towards, it never occurred to me until when Hills and Tech mentioned it. So I think I can tailor myself towards that line.
Sure. So fashion industry, I'm not sure if you saw one BA post from, was it Louis Vuitton or one of these top fashion brands? You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
I
possible.
haven't. We've
So
been
what happens
busy
is what
at
I
work
tell
and in class, only in this class.
Yeah, so this is it. I think you should remove yourself from Nigeria. You remove yourself from Nigeria. So this is what I tell people. Unfortunately, sadly, we don't have lots of these industries in our country, right? We don't have it. So because we don't have it, we don't know that these opportunities exist. Like brands like Gap, for instance, you shop on their portal, right? How do you think they manage their website? How do you think they come up with all of these interesting products? We don't have that in our industry. Does not mean that it does not exist outside of Africa. So sadly. So this is what I always tell people: always remove yourself from Nigeria. Whatever skill you have, let's look at it from a global perspective. See what is happening in Europe. See what is happening in Canada. Go to Indeed. Check out the job description. BA in the fashion industry. BA in food industry. BA in this care industry. You understand? BA in immigration. Yes, there are some immigration consultants that use large CRMs like Salesforce, but do you know that immigration officers in Nigeria are mostly agents? They are not that big. They don't even have all of these tools. But in countries like America, they invest in technology. So, and let's say, for instance, you understand how immigration works, and maybe you learned how to use Salesforce from us. You can talk about, Salesforce from the immigration agency perspective, immigration industry perspective. So that's how I want us to look at it. Whatever industry that you are in right now is an industry, and it's mega outside of Nigeria. That's the way I think. That's the way I tell people around me to think, and that's the way I would expect everyone here to also begin to look at things. Do not underestimate whatever experience you have. Oh yes, you took a break. I took a break from work. to, to tend to my family. It's part of my story. I'm not ashamed of that. You understand? So you shouldn't be ashamed of, you took it, you have a gap. Yes, you have a gap. Do you know that people are confidently talking about how they took like a 2-year gap to tend to their family? What if you had like a sick mom you had to tend to? The heaven will not fall, right? Because you did not work. It does not invalidate your experience. So whatever it is you've done, talk about it nicely from a global perspective. You don't need to tell anybody that because you're attending to your kids, you are now a care worker or something. You took time. You have 3 kids. That's a lot of work, and you should be applauded for that. And now you are back to work. And while doing that, you, instead of, rather than you being idle or busy, you decided to work on some projects by the side, and they'll be like, oh, that's amazing. How were you able to do that? Because already you are busy. So I hope you are able to, take 1 or 2 things from what I
Yes.
just.
So I think you even gave me an idea because, for example, some companies, they recognize this challenge that mothers have. And some companies offer programs where they do a back to work program. Some banks, TD Bank, some other banks, RBC,
Even
they do a back to work program, and it's like an internship or it's paid, and they offer them jobs after. So now talk about, this is a key word, return to work or back to work programs, right? So you can also look for companies that are offering those initiatives as well. So
Yes,
nothing is a problem unless you think it's a problem. So rather than saying it's a problem, look at how you can, oh, okay, so is there maybe some back to work, or if you have gap in your workplace or something like that, right?
exactly. Nigeria is just what it is, but please don't look at the situation in Nigeria, please.
Yes. So thank you so much. I hope that helps, and thank you so for your comments, and Joanne for your comments. So I see that there's a comment by Hanifa. So does data analysis include a skill a business analyst should have? I think that that's a good question that you're asking. And so maybe if I'm going to rephrase it, I think my understanding of that question is that you're asking, is data analysis a skill that a business analyst should have? It's not a required, right? It's not a required, but if you're able to have the ability to understand how to get data, how to transform it, and then how to load it and then visualize it, that's great. But it's not a core requirement of a business analyst. The core requirement of a business analyst is to be a communicator and a bridge between the business and the technical team, right? Data analysis is great. It's a nice to have, but it's not required like the certificates, right? So I put them under not a required, but it's a nice to have. But maybe I'll give that to Bisala and then maybe Ibuko and Ruth, because they're the ones that are also working, and also Bolenle. I think Bolenle has some of those skills. But we'll give that
what I've noticed is that after people take a BA course, for instance, and they are back to work, then they want to upskill, just to become competitive. You understand? So what we always say is just take it one step at a time, one step at a time. If you want to become a business analyst, start with that. And if you want to be a business analyst, start with that. But make sure you get your foot in the door before you can do that. Okay, someone said maybe because some Nigerian organizations request for it. So if that's the case, if you've been seeing that it's a repeated pattern, then by all means, to stay competitive, you can add it to your skill. And then by all means, if you notice that some job requires that you go the extra mile by learning a skill, of course, you keep learning, adding those skills to your skill sets. It's called upskilling. Like, we would all keep learning till we drop out. So yeah, but just focus on one niche get your foot in the door, and then you keep upskilling from there.
Okay, yes. So I see another question by Joy. I'm currently working with a bank as a relationship manager in marketing. How do I structure my CV? You can join our BA class now. We have that. We walk you through it. But overall, that's, I'm not trying to market, but in terms of if you're our student, we go through the process, we walk you through it, right? But in terms of if you haven't taken it, then you have to look at the job that you're looking for. Once you've identified the type of job that you're looking for, you need to look at the job description, right? And then from there, see what is similar to what you do, right? And then from there, you'll be able to create a resume that's going to be tailored to whatever new type of job you're looking for, right? One of the challenges I see is a lot of times people take their day-to-day responsibilities, the bullets, the bullets, but maybe another company is explaining it in a different way. So you're maybe losing out, right? So I don't know if I answered the question. First, come to our class, we'll walk you through that. But then second, identify the type of role you want. What type of role do you want? Look at the job descriptions that are out there for that role, and then see what's similar, and then update your CV accordingly. It's first for you to determine the type of role that you want, right? I'm not sure what type of role you're looking for. I hope that answers.
Yeah, we have three more questions.
Okay.
So one, Faith said, can a business analyst be a project manager? Then Anifa asked, do you always have to adjust your resume to be aligned with any job? Of course, some people have 20 CVs, 20 different CVs. So yes. Does Use and Tech offer work experience after the BA course? And is this included in the course fee? Use and Tech class is open to men as well. We are open to everyone. We just want to encourage women because of technophobia, but we have men in our classes who have gotten jobs. So yes, we are not anti-men at all. We just want a situation whereby a woman feels welcome, right? Because we understand the social, cultural issues that she's experiencing, and we are quite flexible on that. We don't want a situation whereby you have so much men in class and the women lose out, because there are lots of cases. So men are welcome. Ibukun is our student, and I'm really proud of him. Everyone is proud of him. He has been a mentor for several cohorts. He's doing exceptionally well in Saskatchewan, Canada. So Petrina, I'd like you to answer this question. There's one that said, the first one, can a business analyst be a project manager? That's number one.
Oh, I like that. I think that question is from Faith, right? So
Yeah.
in terms of, can a business analyst be a project manager? I believe there are two different distinct roles. They're looking at the project or the initiative from different views. Project manager is looking at the people, the process, and then the resources for the project. So they're more focused on what are people doing? Are they doing what they say they're going to do, right? Whereas the business analyst is the one that's doing the deep dive. They're the ones working on the project day to day with the project team members, right? So business analyst is more about communication. It's more about trying to understand the problem, trying to come up with some solution options, and then making sure it gets done, right? So they give their updates to the project manager. In the instance where a business analyst can be a project manager is in a scenario whereby you come onto a project. There might have been a project manager, maybe they're leaving after a little while. And if you have some of the leadership capabilities, and if you have maybe some budgeting capabilities, then maybe your manager might ask you to take on some of the tasks of the project manager. So then now you have to be giving status updates and stuff like that, right? So to answer your question, yes and no, right? Yes, because maybe they have some of the core competencies are similar. No, in terms of the business analyst key things that they do, the focus is different than the project manager. And then also, yes, in a scenario where there's no other project manager, you can take on some of those roles. Right.
Okay. Ejima said, do these interview preparation questions also apply to the USPA environment? Because I noticed that we've only made references to Canada and Europe.
Where is the question? Did it come? Is it further down?
Yeah, further down.
Oh, Ejima,
Okay,
you have to think about not the people that we interviewed were in different places, but you have to consider the role you're applying to, the competencies and the type of experience that the company is looking for, right? So the way the questions have been answered, you can translate them into whatever type of environment, right? Because the questions are asking, can you tell us about a time when you did XYZ, which is behavioral focused. And in the States, they are focused on how did you do things in the past. So they want you to be able to show your experiences, right? So it's applicable in the US, applicable in Canada, it's applicable in UK, it's applicable in Asia, right? You need to demonstrate how you've done it in the past. So one of the questions I have, I saw one. So Ella says, does Heels and Tech offer work experience internship after the BA course? And is this included in the course fee? Is Heels and Tech open to men as well? Okay, I think that second one was answered. So does Heels and Tech offer work experience internship? So the class that you're going to do is not just theory. Other places they do it theory in terms of, hey, this is what a business analyst does. They do this, 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 and you never have any experience to do it in the practical, right? So our courses are broken down into being practical, tell you what are the key things that you need to have as competencies, and then we break it down and we show you how do you run a sprint? How do you work on a project? How do you work on a business case? How do you do this? We show you, right? And then in order to answer your question, no, we don't offer work experience or an internship. But what happens is when you're finished the program, right, we work with other companies that usually put in requests asking for people that can help work as business analysts or different roles, right? So the fact of the matter is how much effort and time you put into the project and into the work. When we're able to see that, hey, you know, you understand the thing, you put in your time, you put in your effort, then when it comes time to it and we get those requests, then we will put you forward, because we don't want to put people forward to people that are asking, oh, we need a BA or we need this or we need this. And you're going to go and you wouldn't even know how to start, right? So there's no internship offered, but the project you work in the training is practical. So we go end to end in the project, right? So for example, Ebuka even gave an example of, hey, I'm familiar with 2-week sprints, right? That's what I've kind of looked at, learned, and his company had 1 month and he was able to help them change and transition into two weeks, right? So that was even through the practical training that we did. right? And he's doing his job with confidence, right? I hope that answers. And then I think I answered the Jumas. Do these interview preparations apply to BA? Yes, they do. The references were maybe just because of the people that were providing the answers. So Chen is saying, I will assume a business analyst can also be a product owner. Yes, based on the activities and tasks. Yes and no, right? Can we use our class problem as one of our work? Okay, can we use our class problem questions in terms of the project? If I'm going to reframe that in terms of the project, yes, you can use that because that's your experience. You're going to do the project from end to end. So that's even why we want you to do it, so that you can use it with confidence and say, hey, this is our business requirements document. Hey, this is our Jira sprint board, as an example. Okay, sorry, I see it was answered.
Someone said, is there a difference between business analysis and business analytics?
Yes, because business analysis is mainly focused on working on a project or an initiative, working with different stakeholders to understand that, and then being able to communicate what was agreed on and then what needs to be implemented, right? Whereas with business analytics, it's looking at data to make decisions. So it's looking at, okay, so we have 100 customer orders in a day, 100 times 365, that gives us a certain amount, right? Oh, maybe 6 months down the line, it drops to 50 per day. So that's going to be a loss in revenue. So business analytics is looking at what were some of the trends, why are the numbers going down, right? So analytics is about looking at the data to come with insights and solutions. So they're different. So one thing this is telling you is you have to look at the JD. You have to identify the keywords, right? Some companies, in order to save money, they are just going to take a JD and put everything. They just throw everything. So you have to look at it and see. Some of it is more operational. Some of it is more project-based, right? So you just have to be you have to look at the job description really well and see, hey, can I do 50% of this stuff with confidence? Can I demonstrate I can do 50% of this stuff with confidence? So over to you, Visala. Sorry, you're muted.
Thank you everyone for joining our session tonight. I hope you got value for your time that you spent with us. If you are looking to join our session tomorrow, of course, we are open to register you and onboard you. We look forward to having you in class tomorrow. For our students who are interviewing at the moment, we wish you all the best. We wish you all the best, and we are praying for you also. And thank you, Ibukun. Thank you, Bolanle. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Petrina. Thank you, everyone, for contributing to the success of tonight. And
I think there was a question about recording. What will you do?
Okay, we recorded it actually, but we will not be posting it immediately for some people who are currently interviewing. So once they get their foot into the door, then we upload it. But for now, just to keep their privacy, for privacy's sake, we will not be uploading it immediately. We promise them we will not be uploading it immediately. I will try to stand by our word. But if you have any questions, please feel free to send it to us, maybe via email or via Instagram DM.
I hope you're taking notes, so because I hope you're taking notes.
All right.
Because okay, thank you. So look
Yeah,
forward.
thank you, everyone.